Project Equanimity. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Today I wanted to talk about how to stop overthinking. So we all overthink, I overthink, you overthink, everyone overthinks. But some people more than others, and it's very, very hard to get out of. If you've, I think I discussed this in my coronavirus meditation video. The reason being that when we get in a state of fear, our body responds to that, reacts to that, and our brains literally flood our body with cortisol, which puts us in fight or flight mode. That's why we feel tense when we're overthinking. That's why we want to, punch a wall. That's why we want to run away from things. That's why we want to run into things. That's why we are frozen into inaction. It's a very physical, biochemical response, reaction. The reason I differentiate between response and reaction is I think the word response indicates a conscious response, a conscious awareness. I'm responding to things rather than reacting. So I do apologise if I get them mixed up. I see reaction as a very involuntary thing that is beyond our control, only it isn't beyond our control. This is what I try to teach is through meditation we become more aware of ourselves, become more aware of our body, of science and neurology and biochemistry, and we use all this information to prove to ourselves that we can in fact become consciously aware and start to change things. I would call this sort of biomechanics, using ancient technologies to create a life which we prefer. The phrase ancient technology, however, is just our body. So I'm going to read something today, and I've never shared this with anyone, and you'll understand why when I read it. But basically, I used to live in Australia for a long time, for a number of years, and at one point my sister came out to visit me, and we hired a camper van. We flew up to Queensland, hired a camper van, and then drove south back into northern New South Wales and just bombed around in a camper van. It was great. We ended up in this little town called Nimbin, and if you've been to Nimbin, you'll be laughing right now because it's a weird place. It's basically where a bunch of hippies went for a festival in the 70s, and then some of them stayed and created this town, and it's sort of a social experiment. Everyone grows weed. Literally everyone there grows weed. It's completely illegal to sell, but there's huge loopholes. You're allowed to grow in your own weed for personal use. Everyone deals down the back streets because all the main streets are on camera. Everyone's a hippie. It also has a lot of social problems per capita, because Australia has a very small population compared to everywhere else. It has the highest unemployment rate in the whole of Australia, this tiny little town. When social experiments like this go, hippies go and it's all free and easy and love and peace, man, and yeah, let's just all smoke weed, that also attracts people with, drug issues and homelessness and trauma problems who use drugs to escape from things, and so there's a lot of mental health issues there, I noticed, but it's a very fun little town. Anyway, I bought a bag of weed. I hadn't smoked weed in a number of years. I used to smoke it every day, but I'd quit for years at this point. But when in Rome, I bought some weed for me and my sister, and she wouldn't smoke any because she's a straight UNAE. So I had this massive bag of weed that I smoked to myself, and absolutely loved Nimbin, and then got too paranoid and had to escape because it was just weird. For people who've been there, I think that probably sums it up. But anyway, whilst I was there was this little old lady doing tarot readings on the street, so me and my sister went individually, and she told me some really interesting stuff. And then at the end she goes, So this is my tarot reading on here. These are all the cards and everything. But she goes, just write this down. So I did, and I didn't think anything of it at the time. I just wrote it, listened to it, and went away and went, that was weird, but nice. So here it is. I share my visions and feelings with those to whom I am close. I inhale and nurture myself. I dissolve the fortress in me. I exhale and cleanse myself. I'm aware of an awakening within me. With self-confidence and inner mastery, I move forward with my choices in life. And my is underlined twice, I might add. So, why am I reading this on a video about overthinking? Basically, this little thing has helped me a lot over the years. This would have been 2012, wow, so 8 years I've had this. And I've had it just, bit of blue tack stuck on the wall. And when I came back, and I went through a lot in my life, and I never really thought of this at all. And all of a sudden, when I was in absolute desperation, totally just going crazy, absolutely morbidly depressed, anxious, lonely, everything, this thing just fell off the wall and floated down and landed on my lap right in front of me. And I was like, oh. And I followed this, and it worked. And I swear to God, it's done it a number of times over the years, at points where I've really, really needed it. You can call it coincidence if you want. I don't believe in coincidence. I believe in synchronicity. But the key points in this are: I inhale and nurture myself. I dissolve the fortress in me. I exhale and I cleanse myself. Now, whether or not she got this from a book, whether or not she just tells everyone who she does a tarot reading to write down, I don't know. But I think it's beautiful, and I've kept it with me all these years. I'm probably going to get it tattooed on my body. I love it that much. But the reason I'm talking about this is, have you ever seen someone, this used to happen as a kid for some reason in the 80s, or you might have seen it on films, when someone's having a panic attack, they give them a brown paper bag to breathe in and sort of hyperventilate. Now, these ancient technologies that I'm talking about is the human body, is the breath. And if you've watched my videos on the Wim Hof method, that is incredible, because I won't go on, but it resets everything. And not only does it reset everything in your body biochemically, Wim Hof has control over his autonomic nervous system, which prior to him science has always said is absolutely impossible. But he's proven it. Not just him, he's trained people who've proven it, so it's conclusive. And I also do another video called the 478 technique, which is a really simple breathing technique for when you're feeling anxious in the moment you do this. But what I would say is the simplest, most important thing if you are overthinking is, if you realise that you're overthinking and going crazy, just hold your breath. Just take a massive deep breath in like this and hold it for as long as possible. I could go on for quite a while with this because I've got quite big lungs. But I'll speed it up for the sake of the video. Okay, so when you've held your breath for long enough and you go, your body then compensates for the lack of oxygen. So then you start going afterwards, right? You force hyperventilation, and then your body returns to normal, your breathing returns to normal. And what's happened is you've flooded your body and your blood with oxygen. You have oxygenated your blood. This turns your skin, your body, from acidic to alkali. You can remember the litmus tests in science in high school? If you were to put a litmus test on you before doing that, it would be acidic. After it would be alkali. And not only that, but in the brain, basically the prefrontal cortex, which is sort of where our where it's thought that our ego sits, and it's our sort of default programming. This is where we operate from in a alpha or beta brainwave state. It reduces the carbon dioxide, and when in your brain, and when the carbon dioxide is reduced, the cortisol reduces, the insula kicks in and releases feel-good hormones. But when you deprive this ego, this is a really beautiful way of looking at it. When you deprive this ego of carbon dioxide and increase it with oxygen, that ego starts to diminish. Then you come back to your true self, your higher self, your non-reactionary self, your thoughtful response self. So how this works in terms of overthinking is you're giving yourself a fighting chance. So I've done this before. I have a very active brain, and if I'm overthinking and I've managed to catch myself in the moment and I just do some form of breathing technique, whether that's the 4-7-8, whether that's Wim Hof, whether that's just holding my breath and going, oh my god, I can't handle this, but oh wait, okay, I might still feel like crap afterwards, but I've taken myself out of the moment, out of the pressure, out of the fighting, crazy, overthinking, irrational, mental brain. You take yourself out of that, and even if you do still feel like crap, even if things are going wrong in your life, you are then on an even keel. You've taken yourself out of it, and you're then on an even keel to start choosing something else, whether that's something relaxing, like going home and watching a movie, or having a bath, or just going to sleep because you just can't handle it. That, other than meditation, sleep is the next best thing to get yourself out of crazy overthinking. If you are, I talked yesterday in my last video about the analogy of a train, and this comes down to law of attraction, and not just law of attraction as in consciously manifesting things into your life like work and money and relationships and all these cool stuff. It comes down to your very thoughts. So if you have one negative thought, another negative thought joins it, because like attracts like, right? So now you have 2 negative thoughts. Now you have 3 because another one joins it. Now you have 4, now you have 5, and it's like Abraham Hicks uses this analogy. It's like adding carriages or engines to an already speeding train, so it just gets faster and faster and faster and builds momentum, and then you end up going all the way down this track that you never wanted to go if you'd have just caught yourself at the first thought. That's why it all starts with the thought, and when you catch yourself, it all starts with the breath, because if you can calm yourself down and biochemically alter your body's reactionary state, you are then in control. Then you can respond because you're conscious, you are aware of it, you're consciously aware of what's going on. Then you can choose, and you can choose things that feel good. You can choose a nice thought, you can think of a nice memory, you can think of someone you love, you can think of a child in your life that, you know, I think of my nephews a lot because they're just these beautiful, pure little innocent beings. That normally snaps me out of it and starts adding new thoughts that go in the opposite direction, because like attracts like. So a feel good thought, another one gets added to it, then another one, then another one. All of a sudden you're having the best day ever because you're thinking and feeling nice things. And that's not overthinking, is it? That's completely different. It's completely opposite. No one complains about thinking too many nice thoughts. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. We just want to get out of overthinking. Now the way to do that, as I've said, is meditation or mindfulness, some form of mindfulness, or sleep. Now, nobody really wants to just go to sleep to stop their mental human brain, do they? But if you tell someone who's crazy and overthinking you need to meditate, they're probably going to get angry with you. And that is going to add another thought to their train carriage, you know, because they're in that state. If they tell themselves this, I need to meditate, that's going to add more lack I'm lacking, I need to do this to feel good, therefore I'm not good enough already. Boom, another big engine gets set on your train. The trick is to just be aware of this, of what's going on, and try to catch yourself in the moment. And when I say try, I mean with the least effort possible. And I know that sounds weird and opposite, but it's the only way I can explain it. Because if you try and need to do something to get you out of yourself, that just adds a carriage, adds a carriage, adds a carriage. Before you know it, you're going a million miles that way. But if you just become a little bit aware of what's going on and then do something as simple as taking a deep breath and holding it, your body will adjust for you, with you, to you. And then you give yourself a fighting chance because you're in neutral territory then. The train is not going that way. The train is not going that way. You've just pulled the emergency brake. Is the emergency brake up here? I don't know. You've pulled the brake. And you're at a standstill. And like I said, you might still be feeling like shit. You might still have things that are going on in your life beyond your control, but they're not controlling you anymore. Because in this state, you are in neutral vibration. Now, whether you want to look at this from a spiritual, energetic point of view, or a scientific, neurological, biochemical view, it's exactly the same. It's completely the same thing. Science and spirituality will always be linked, and they will find out things from each other. Just before I end the video, I will show you the 478 technique really quickly, and I'll put a link to the original video too. But basically, the 478 technique is you've caught yourself overthinking, and you want to change it with your breath. So here's a really good way of doing it. You inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. You count to 4 in your head, so like this. You hold your breath for 7 seconds. You exhale through your mouth for 8 seconds and purse your lips to make an O. Then you do it again. If you're doing this now, you'll already be feeling your body changing. The physiology of your body is changing. Your cells are being oxygenated. Your cortisol levels are reducing. Your ego is diminishing. Your inner higher self conscious awareness is coming into play. Basically, you do that. So 1 round is 4 seconds through the nostrils, hold for 7 seconds, and breathe out for 8 seconds out of the mouth. That's 1 round, and you do 4 rounds of that. That is 1 complete set. If you've never done a breathwork before, don't try and do more than that, but don't do less either. And don't, if you're halfway through the first one or second one or third one and thinking this isn't working, shut up, keep going, just keep going, and then tell me how you feel afterwards, because I guarantee you will feel different from before when you started to afterwards. And it's all down to you and your breath. You are in control of that. That's the beauty of it. You are taking control over your thoughts. You are taking control over your body. Therefore, you're taking control over your life and the trajectory of your life. I will read out the last thing. I'll read out this thing again for you, and I'll put it in the description below. So the first line is, I share my visions and feelings with those to whom I am close. Now, I am quite, what's the word? I don't share my inner thoughts and feelings to many people. Only people who I completely trust, because I'm a sensitive person. But I really did want to share this, and it actually fell off the wall the other day at a time that I really appreciated it, but also I thought I'm going to do a video on that. So I did want to share this with people because I think it's an incredibly simple yet incredibly powerful tool that I think people should have. So if I can communicate this to you through this video camera, that's awesome. And I just wanted to sort of give a gift as appreciation to my new subscribers and people who are watching the video. I'm really grateful for it. So please take this away with you, write it down, remember it, put it somewhere like I do, like on a wall. You never know when you might need it, and it might crack you out of that, crazy overthinking mind. So I'll just read it out again and see if it makes more sense after the things we've talked about, and whether you look at these things in a spiritual sense, spiritual energetic sense, or a scientific neurological biochemical sense, it is exactly the same thing, right? People in ancient India knew this and wrote this down. They didn't know the scientific terms that we had today, but science is now just discovering why this works and going, actually, it's not just mumbo jumbo. It has a real biological, biochemical, neurological, psychological effect that we truly do have control over our bodies, and that the breath really is life. So I don't know where that came from. I share my visions and feelings with those to whom I am close. I inhale and I nurture myself. I dissolve the fortress in me. I exhale and I cleanse myself. I'm aware of an awakening within me. With self-confidence and inner mastery, I move forward with my choices in life. So there you go. I hope this video has been of benefit to you. Hit the like button if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste. Bye.